Now it's my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker. Rabbi Jonathan Hausman is a second-generation American with a passion for philosophy, history, politics, religion, and languages. He's fluent in Hebrew and Arabic and is highly credentialed with a BA in Judaic Studies, an MA in International Affairs focusing on the Middle East, and a Doctor of Law degree. He has spent significant time in Israel, Ramallah, and the West Bank, as well as in Egypt, before and during the Camp David process. It was in Egypt that he saw the activities of the Muslim Brotherhood up close and personal, and where he witnessed the dissociative treatment of the Coptic Church and its adherents. He is presently involved with organizations such as Christians United for Israel, Christians and Jews United for Israel. Rabbi Hausman is in certain respects an anomaly in his profession. He feels that many who should be defending the liberal traditions of Western democracy are running and hiding, and he has bravely created the Hausman Memorial Free Speech Forum in memory of his parents at his Massachusetts synagogue in order to feature controversial speakers such as Wafa Sultan, Bat Yor, Andrew McCarthy, Mark Steyn, and of course the Dutch parliamentarian Geert Wilders, who produced the film Fitna. And very fittingly, Rabbi Hausman will also be launching the US chapter of IFPS soon. As you can imagine, for all of this, he has been roundly criticized in some quarters, but when history has its say, Rabbi Hausman wants to be seen on the side of Churchill and not Chamberlain. We are honored that he has come from Boston to join us tonight, and we greatly look forward to his address. So please join us and join me in welcoming Rabbi Hausman.
First of all, you're all going to have to forgive me. Usually when I speak, I like to walk around. But it seems I'm tethered to a podium tonight. Oh, you see, Mark thinks of everything for his friends.
Testing. Oh, no jock spot of that actually up there.
Mary Lou, thank you very much for that wonderful introduction. Yeah, I'm roundly criticized right now by my wife because I'm not home rubbing her feet and rubbing her back, squeezing her shoulders. I'm here addressing you wonderful people tonight. Just one housekeeping detail before we get started. I just need to warn you all. I have a rather sardonic, biting, and sarcastic sense of humor, and I can guarantee it will come out tonight, particularly if my mother-in-law comes up. I'm just telling you. Well, let's see. The title of my discussion, my presentation tonight, is The Coming Wars of Unintended Consequences, How Reckless Threats and Actions Become a Battleground. Now, you need to understand something. It's very easy to come up with a title when you have to make that title, come up with that title, designate that title 6 to 8 weeks before you're present. Because what happens? You just don't know what's going to happen in the world. So you have to give a title that means that you can talk about just about anything. Oh, wait a minute, I'm in Canada. It's not about, it's about, sorry. Okay, and it's not organization, it's organizations. So, you know, here I am sitting in my office, and a number of people from Hamilton and London want to know what my topic will be, and I have to figure out what's going to happen in the world 6 weeks from now. Now, you need to understand, I don't know what's going to happen in my life 2 days from now. No, that's not true. I have a bar mitzvah at the synagogue this coming Shabbat, this coming Saturday, so I know something of what's going to happen. I know something of what's going to happen. Unintended consequences. What happens when you don't know what you need to confront until it's in front of you, and you have to act in ways you never thought you would? I told a story last night. I'm going to tell it again. So those of you who have heard it, please indulge me. My wife and I have one daughter. Wonderful kid. I will take her anywhere. My daughter has a learning issue. They call it executive functioning issues. You should know she's an honor roll student. She's in all honors courses in high school. That's the top level of courses. She does very well, but for math. If anybody here would like to come to Boston and do her math homework for her, she would be greatly appreciative, I can tell you that. And by the way, you can go to college with her too to do that math homework as well. So at the beginning of every year, and usually in mid-year, my wife and I like to meet with the core academic teachers that Jacqueline has. You know, science, math, English, foreign language, which in my daughter's case is Latin, history. Course is nice and well and good, and physical education, what we used to call gym, is well and good, and whatever else she takes, all well and good. But it's the core subjects that my wife and I are concerned about. How is she doing in that? Because with all due respect, she probably won't be a singer, she probably won't be an artist, but she needs to know how to make change. Now, my wife was sick this year, which meant, unfortunately for the school system, they had to deal with me without any buffer in between. So a couple of people here who know me, go into meetings, I like to really sit in the back, listen to what everybody has to say, digest, and hopefully I have 24 hours before I have to open my big mouth. So the presentations take place. Jacqueline, she's a wonderful kid. We're so happy to have her in class. She's so helpful. She's this, she's that. She won't call us by our first names, only Mr. or Mrs. or Miss. You know, all the things a father wants to hear, okay, except for the history teacher who said, you know, I gave the kids a map of the Middle East, and your kid got everything correct, but she mislabeled Jerusalem. No, that's a true story. She missed... For some reason, Jerusalem was a Cairo. I'm still trying to figure this one out. Okay, so the meeting basically comes to its conclusion because all the teachers have said what they needed to say. The academic lab instructor said what she needed to say. The adjustment counselor, because my kid came in from a private school, gave me her input. The guidance counselor, who's as worthless as anything, gave me her input, and I didn't understand a word she said, which is interesting because I got 4 degrees. I can't understand somebody who's unintelligible. Figure that one out. Rabbi, would you like to say anything? I said, yeah, I would. I said, guidance counselor, English, Latin, math, and science. I'm done with you. You can leave. I said, history, I want you to stay here. Why? I said, because I'm the town rabbi and I asked you to stay here. What do you mean, why? What do you mean, why? Okay, so everybody leaves but for the adjustment counselor, the academic lab instructor, and the history teacher. Dr. Mansour, I have you on my mind. Everybody's professor right now. So I said to the history teacher, please talk to me about World War II. And in particular, talk to me about the Pacific. And in particular, talk to me about August 6th. You all know August 6th, right? The Enola Gay, the bomb, all right? Hiroshima, then 3 days later on Nagasaki. So the history teacher begins by saying, well, you know, it's really a difficult period in American history. And I said, you know, stop right there. Stop right there. I said, you know, my father fought in the Pacific for 4 years. 4 years. Awarded 5 medals. 2 Purple Hearts, which means he was wounded in battle. 2 Silver Stars, which means he saved people under fire. My dad did that. And a Bronze Star, which means courage in battle. No, Mark, more than wow. I should be 10% of the man he was. I don't want to hear an explanation of the bomb being dropped when my father was the only person to survive his first unit fighting the Japanese in the Pacific, fighting totalitarianism. It's not a well-you-know situation at all. I said this is the difference between epistemology and ontology. You know what that is? It's very simple. Epistemology, basically, I mean, this is real crude form, but you're entitled to your own opinion. Ontology, you're not entitled to your own facts. I said, so do me a favor. Don't make me come in here and get you fired. I said, because we Jews are an historical people. We feel the weight of history on our shoulders, even more so if you're a rabbi. So I want you to teach my daughter the facts, because you know, there's an ultimate question that one has to be faced with if one teaches students. So the history teacher said, well, what's that? I said, what? And my response was, what is your role as a teacher? What are you trying to do? Well, I'm trying to get facts into your daughter's head. No! You are trying to teach my kid critical thinking skills. That's your job. I don't want you to teach her morality. I don't want you to teach her ethics. That's my job as a parent. Your job is to help me teach her critical thinking skills. Critical thinking skills. We have Israel Truth Week. You know, and we have to be creative because this is one day. But in Judaism, we get very elastic with a number of things. So this one day is a week. Next year, it will be 2 days. And then the year after, it will be 3, until it is Israel Truth Week. So what I want to do for the balance of the evening, and I know it's late, but you'll please all bear with me, I want to give you 2 case studies from south of the border. That means the United States, okay? South of the border. One in my backyard, one that means a lot to my family, and then we'll see where we'll go from there. Sound okay? No, everybody say yes. Have a better yet. Say, yes, Rabbi. Oh, you know, this is better than even being at home, because at home, my wife ignores me all the time. You know, half the time she doesn't even know my name. Of course, the other half, she doesn't want to know my name, but that's beside the point. Okay, Harvard University. You all know Harvard, right? Right? I mean, the top university in the United States. So I'm in Israel. I come back with my daughter, led 31 people on a mission to Israel, to a huge number of emails and messages dealing with a conference that was to take place, the weekend after we return. The one-state conference, Israel/Palestine and the one-state solution, to take place on Harvard's campus, financed in part by university resources, including Harvard University's provost, the Weatherhead Institute, and as I mentioned last night, my daughter refers to that as the Featherhead Institute now, took place at the prestigious Kennedy School of Government Forum And you need to understand that the Kennedy School of Government is the top school of policy in the United States. Posted on the Harvard Kennedy School of Government website and advertised as a Harvard Kennedy School student conference. So, Mark, let me ask you something. You say you're just a dumb guy, which I don't happen to believe.
I said I was a simple guy.
Don't argue with me. There's a point here. There's a point here. For us dumb guys, would you say that's a Harvard program?
Yes, Rabbi, I would.
That's what I would too. I would too. And trust me, I ain't the sharpest knife in the drawer either. I took a look at the bottom of the website, Kennedy School of Government website, and it was a disclaimer. This is the disclaimer. The one-state conference is run solely by the student organizers, and students alone are responsible for all aspects of the program, including content and speakers, as with all student-run events. It does not represent the views of the Harvard Kennedy School, Harvard University, or any Harvard school or center. I got to be honest with everyone here. If you got the provost involved with this, and you got the Weatherhead Institute involved with this, and the site is the Harvard Kennedy School of Government, and it's posted on the Harvard Kennedy School of Government website, how stupid can you think people be? I mean, this is all the trappings of a Harvard event. Now, the organizers of the conference promised that this particular conference, the one-state conference, would explore, and here's the quote, the possible contours of a one-state solution and the challenges that stand in the way of its realization. Okay, so let's talk about some of the presenters at this conference. Included the Palestine Solidarity Committee, a noted anti-Israel hate group. Matter of fact, this group was one of the groups that protested. My cousin, Dr. Ehud Netzer, may he rest in peace, was Israel's foremost archaeologist before he passed away last year. He appeared at Harvard. They protested him. My cousin came to talk about dead people, in particular Herod. By the way, you remember a couple of years ago, Herod's sarcophagus was identified? That was my cousin. Not Herod, all right, the archaeologist, okay? Justice for Palestine, the Palestine Caucus, the Arab Caucus, the Progressive Caucus, the Alliance for Justice in the Middle East. Gays Against Apartheid. This is very interesting because give me the only country in the Middle East where gays, lesbians, bisexuals, transsexuals can march in a parade. They do it in Jerusalem. They do it in Tel Aviv. Try them to do it in Gaza City. Now, I had just gotten off the plane. I was too tired to fight. Be honest with you. The only fighting I wanted to do when I got back from Israel was with my wife. No, blood sports, really nice. But a good friend of mine, Margot Einstein, 83 years old, who has more courage than anyone I know, held a one-woman vigil that Saturday at Harvard. And due to her appearance, I will tell you, a controversy erupted. Alan Dershowitz, tenured professor at Harvard Law School, condemned the conference as a genuine hate fest because, quote, virtually all of the speakers oppose Israel's existence. He described the call for a single-state solution as a euphemism for ending the existence of the state of Israel as a nation-state for the Jewish people. The one-state solution is not the alternative for Israel. It is the alternative to Israel. And as Martin Luther King Jr. was quoted today in one of the afternoon sessions, I quote another excerpt from Dr. King. When you speak about being an anti-Semite, when you speak about being anti-Israel, you speak about hatred of Jews. One of my senators, Scott Brown, the guy who was not sent as an envoy to Bashar al-Assad in Syria. Scott Brown called on Harvard to cancel the forum. His statement, I want to condemn in the strongest possible terms Harvard's sponsorship of a conference exploring a one-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And as I've mentioned many times over the years, I didn't know it was an Israeli-Palestinian conflict. I always thought it was an Arab-Israeli conflict. And it depends on how you define the conflict. This is dangerous thinking, Senator Brown wrote, that gives comfort to Israel's enemies who view the one-state solution as a euphemism for eliminating Israel as a Jewish state. Harvard may have a right to do this, but it doesn't make it right. The university should cancel this conference. By the way, the university did not cancel the conference, and Professor Richard Kravitz, president of Scholars for Peace in the Middle East, summed it up best when he wrote the following. This was his statement. You should buy his books. Kravatts. A conference whose goal is to demonize and delegitimize Israel is not an academic enterprise. It is propaganda parading as scholarship. It violates not only one of the basic precepts of scholarship, but also the spirit of the Kennedy School, which was conceived as a place where students could debate with academic integrity, reason, and insight the important issues facing decision makers. By the way, that statement is antithetical to anything that anyone in the Kennedy family ever stood for. This is recorded, right? Good. I hope that gets out in my district, because now another Kennedy is going to be running for representative in Massachusetts. God forbid. You're a Kennedy lover, I see, huh? You have issues with the family, huh? Yes. Yeah, so do I. Yes. Kravitz, let me finish up the statement. The one-state solution, far from a rational plan for Palestinian statehood, actually proposes to do with votes and demography the same thing that Arab armies have failed to do for the past 64 years. I mean, you saw some of the short films from the JCPA and whatnot depicted very well what those armies wanted to do. Now, the participants at the conference were what many of us in the Boston area would like to call the usual suspects of the hate Israel crowd. When I received the award for pro-Israel activity by Christians and Jews United for Israel, an award I did not deserve. They thought I deserved it, but I didn't think so. These were the same people who picketed my award ceremony. Some of them know. The locals, yes. Here were some of the international personages who participated in this conference. Ilan Pappé, you know him? Who knows of him? Oh, good, a smattering of hands, okay? A notorious anti-Israel faux historian. I know in Hamilton, faux is how you pronounce it. You pronounce it faux over here in London as well? Okay. Faux historian. He was one of 2 keynote speakers. Despite the fact that Dr. Pappé, Professor Pappé, despite the fact that he has been exposed as inventing history and distorting facts to fit his personal anti-Zionist ideology. And here is an exact quote right from Pappé's mouth. I care less about veracity because I have an agenda to advance. yeah, it would be fun, it would be laughable if it wasn't so sad. The other keynote speaker, Ali Abu Nima, for those who don't speak Arabic, Ali Abu Nima, co-founder of Electric Intifada. Anybody know about him? Yeah, okay, great. Author of the 2000 book, One Country, a bold proposal to end the Israeli-Palestinian impasse. He has made a career of Israel bashing. Another participant for whom facts are irrelevant. Another Jewish woman, Eve Spangler. And I know for a number of you Christians here, I know it might sound strange, but yes, there are a lot of anti-Zionist Jews. Eve Spangler routinely accuses Israel of genocide, apartheid, sociocide. You know, every time they try to come up with a sociocide, I don't know what sociocide means. I'm not a dumb guy, but sociocide, I don't know. Elsewhere, she has declared that there is no real history, only competing narratives. Now, I'm going to be honest with you all. Judaism teaches, I'm a rabbi, so no matter what else happens, the theology hat is on my head. The rabbinic hat is always on my head. And Judaism teaches that there are absolute truths in this world, in this universe. There is evil, there is good. You call one what it is, you call the other what it is. There is no such thing as competing narratives. You pick up the gun, you pull the trigger. In Jewish law, you are imputed to have intent. By the way, halacha, Jewish law, has no relevance in civil court because we have an operating principle when it comes to matters that are not of personal piety. Dina de malchuta dina, the law of the land is paramount. Here was another participant, Diana Butu. Anybody other than Mayor? Anybody else heard of this person? No? Yes. Former spokesman and legal advisor to the PLO. Now, she just makes stuff up out of thin air to demonize Israel, minimize the heinousness of terrorism. She has repeatedly claimed, you don't believe me? Go on to YouTube, pull this stuff up. She has repeatedly claimed, in stark contradiction to the off-videotaped explosion and destruction caused by Qassam rockets, that none of this is her exact quote. You can find it on YouTube, I'm telling you. None of the almost 12,000 rockets and mortars that Hamas has rained down on Israeli towns actually had an explosive head. Hamas is just pretending to kill Israelis. It would be laughable were it not so sad. Here are other people presenting at the conference. Harvard University professor of international affairs, Stephen Walt. He's the author of the ferociously anti-Israel and factually shoddy and slipshod the Israel lobby and U.S. foreign policy. My friends, it's not just an anti-Semitic tract, and it is, but it is a contemporary incarnation of the protocols of the elders of Zion. Although I will tell you, interestingly and ironically, he was the only speaker at the conference to acknowledge the possibility of a two-state solution. Figure that juxtaposition out. Duncan Kennedy, who teaches along with Dershowitz at Harvard's Law School. He has leveled extreme, factually inaccurate charges against Israel and calls for boycott and divestment. He wants to make sure that when your doctor prescribes antibiotics for you and you go to the drugstore or pharmacy, whatever you call it up here, to get the prescription filled, that if it's a generic, Teva pharmaceutical, penicillin, or erythromycin, that you can't get that medication. Or how about Taro Pharmaceutical Industries of Israel? Anybody have a bad case of athlete's foot here? Or, no, I'm serious. It's not a joke. You ever have a bad case of it? You need something stronger than an over-the-counter? Or how about this? I train at a dojo for martial arts, the Israeli forms and the Thai forms. You know what goes around a martial arts dojo? Ringworm. The pharmaceutical company that manufactures the salve is Torah Pharmaceuticals of Israel. I should rather have ringworm and scratch my arm off than buy salve. Or Ahavath products, cosmetic products. Want to have those products pulled from the shelves of every department store that presently carries them. And in the United States, that means Walmart. I don't know, you have Walmart up here? Okay. Duncan Kennedy. Timothy McCarthy. He's a lecturer at the Carr Center at the Kennedy School of Government. He's a member of the Board of Advisors of Freedom Forward, a pro-Palestinian activist group that supported that Turkish ship that the Israelis interdicted a couple of years back. And Naor Ben Yehoyada. Now you would think that name, he'd be Jewish, okay, pro-Israel. He's a visiting lecturer at Harvard. In 2007, he was part of a campaign that distributed wanted posters for Israel's chief of staff, Dan Chalutz, calling him a war criminal. Forget the fact that Chalutz prosecuted the war against Hezbollah terribly. And he showed up at Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island in 2009 to speak at Israel Apartheid Week. Have you heard of Brown University? Harvard's number 1. Brown's like number 3 or number 4 in the country down in the United States. Now, in response to the criticism, and this was heavy criticism from all over, this is what Harvard ended up doing. The Weatherhead Center, and the Carr Center for Human Rights, which some of us now have renamed the Carr Center for Inhuman Rights, removed their sponsorships. The Kennedy School logo remained. Everything else remained, including the support from the provost. Now, it shouldn't come as any surprise. The Kennedy School of Government has a sharply skewed Middle East initiative program. The university's virulently anti-Israel Center for Middle East Studies, an affiliated outreach center, the various anti-Israel programs and personalities at the Weatherhead Center, at the Carr Center, and in other departments, all the money that has flowed in from wonderful humanitarians in the Middle East, all have in recent years promoted bigoted attacks against the Jewish state at Harvard. At Harvard. The hypocrisy of the event was epitomized as speakers condemned the very existence of a Jewish state, but urged the creation of a Palestinian Muslim state which envisions Islam as the official religion, Arabic as the official language, and the principles of Sharia, with its gender inequities and religious apartheid as the main source of legislation. What's the official language of Israel? And Arabic. No, not English. Everybody speaks English. It's because they want our dollars, yours and mine, U.S. and Canadian. Hebrew and Arabic. Apartheid in Israel. Go take a look at that wall out there with those pictures on them. Including a member of the Knesset in Israel from the Beled party who gets up in the well of the Knesset denouncing Israel, preaching Israel's destruction from the well of the Knesset, and he's allowed to do it. Druze and Arab justices, Christian and Muslim. Apartheid in Israel. Haifa University, 40% Arab. Hebrew University, 15% Arab. Rida Mansour, Israel's former consul general to the Southeast United States and ambassador to Ecuador. Druze. You know something, you're all here tonight. I'll be honest with you. I don't care if you're heterosexual. I don't care if you're homosexual. I don't want to live in your bedroom. I don't want to live in your checkbook, but please write those checks out for the roof, okay? Okay? You want to be gay? You want to change your gender? You want to do any of that? Where's the only country in the Middle East where you can do this? Where lesbian couples can adopt kids. Or if one of them can conceive, in vitro fertilization to pay for the pregnancy. By presenting a one-state solution to the Arab-Israeli conflict, the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, whatever you want to call it, and discussing the ways to achieve it, the conference advanced and advocated the demographic destruction of the Jewish state, and thereby denying my people the right of the Jewish people to exercise our own sovereignty. And by funding and hosting this conference, Harvard University lent its prestige to and provided a supportive forum for one of the most ancient forms of bigotry and hatred. You know, Pastor, it's very nice and well and good that your parish is hosting this conference today. It should be at Western. Because if Western can host Israel Apartheid Week, if Western can host boycott, divest, and sanction activities on campus, they can host this. When Mark Stein spoke at my synagogue, and yes, my friends, Mark Stein did speak at my synagogue, Michael Graham, a good friend of mine, radio talk show host in Boston, is a friend of mine. I asked him to come and introduce Mark. You know, Michael said something that'll cause a lot of laughter, but it's a lot of true. It's very true. I can take stupid people, but smart, stupid people? I mean, this is Harvard. Columbia University invites Mahmoud Ahmadinejad to address the university. And with Ahmadinejad, you know, there's no, it's black and white. Israel, destroy it. Jews, kill them. Chase them away. Jews, vermin, disease, wipe it out. Smart, stupid people? My father, may he rest in peace, used to say, you know, kid, Ivy League smart also means Ivy League dumb. Now, just to tell you what's going on, my wife is a graduate of the University of Pennsylvania. Okay? The number 5 school in the country down in the States. We got some 4,000 colleges and universities. My wife is a graduate of probably the 5th most prestigious university in the U.S. Now, my wife and I have known each other practically our whole lives. My late father and my late father-in-law were fraternity brothers at the University of Connecticut. One set of Susan's grandparents and one set of my grandparents founded the same synagogue in Bridgeport, Connecticut together. I mean, there's just a lot of overlap in the families. So, you know, I knew Susan was at UPenn. I'll be honest with you. I don't know if this happened when she graduated, she graduated shortly thereafter, but it was about, let's see, she graduated 33 years ago. That's 1979 if you're trying to do the math, okay? So I don't know if it was 79, 80, 81, 82, but it was somewhere in that range, okay? A fraternity. Do you have fraternities up here at colleges? Okay. Fraternity at UPenn. Members of a fraternity at UPenn decided around Halloween at a UPenn Halloween party, ball, to dress up in white sheets as Ku Klux Klansmen. Okay, it's very simple. You go to Marshall's, okay, you buy white bed sheets, you cut out the eyes, put it over your head, and there you go. The university's president was so outraged that he closed down the fraternity, sent them all off campus, and called the national office of the fraternity and said, your charter is revoked permanently. So here we are, fast forward, this past October, President Amy Gutmann. Yes, and if anybody's going to say Gutmann, could she be Jewish? Yes, she is. Hosts a Halloween party. And by the way, I just want it on record. This is being recorded. Halloween is not a Jewish holiday. If we Jews want to dress up in masks, we do it on Purim, which was just a couple of weeks ago. And we don't go around to houses to see what we can get. We go around houses to see what we can give. Halloween? Ich weiß nicht. What do I know about this stuff? I have trouble enough keeping Judaism and Islam separate. I don't need a third faith system in there. So here's this Halloween party, and in comes a couple of people dressed up in Hamas uniforms. What was the reaction? Now, somebody take a wild guess, please. Right, nothing. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. Segue to the beginning of February, and Penn hosted a major national 3-day event called Penn BDS, Penn Boycott, Divest, and Sanction, a conference aimed at dismantling the state of Israel. Right on its poster. February 3rd through February 5th, a veritable who's who of anti-Semites, including all kinds of lefties and radicals, Israel-bashing, Jew-bashing bloggers, okay, far-left professors, self-hating Jews, who all depicted Israel as an occupation. We're not talking about Yehuda and Shomron, Judea and Samaria. By the way, Pastor, I don't like West Bank either as a term. You know, it's only called West Bank after 48. It wasn't Judea and Samaria as occupied. It was all of Israel as occupied. No right to exist. Falsely accused Israel of ethnic cleansing. I mean, I could go through the whole charges. You probably know what they were. Urged participants to wage economic war against Israel. Lawfare. You have some of that up here. We have it down in the States. You certainly have it in Europe. Look at the suits brought against Geert Wilders, Tommy Robinson, Elizabeth Sabbatich-Wolf, Lars Hedegaard, Lars Vilks. I can go on. Featured speakers, Ali Abunimah. There he is again. By the way, you should know he's an old buddy of Obama's as well. Columbia University Iran Studies professor Hamid Dabashi, who accuses Israel of global terrorism, a half-century of systematic maiming and murder. I didn't know that as a Jew that I was in favor of maiming and murdering. Amy Gutman, what was her reaction to the BDS conference on her campus? Mark, what was the reaction? Nothing. Nothing. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. No, that's wrong. She did make a couple of statements. These are recognized student groups. You know, content neutral. We believe in the free exchange of ideas. You know, that was the one where I said to my wife, if you give another $1 of money that I earn, because Susan doesn't work, it's my money. Well, you want to know something? And then I get my paycheck, I go to the bank, I cash out the check, and I give everything to Susan. So, But, I said to her, you give another dime to Penn, and not that we're big givers, because I'm a rabbi, which means that I make enough money so at the end of the month, maybe I have enough to see a movie. And I haven't seen a movie in months, okay? Okay? But I said, another dime to a university that has a president, and in this case, a Jewish president, who talks about the free exchange of ideas. Since when is and this is what I said to one of her friends, who's also a grad of Penn, same year. Wrote to her on, this is when I decided that I was finished with Facebook, but for posting clips of some of my favorite blues artists, okay? I wrote to her friend, Ruth, since when is a professionally organized 3-day hate fest filled with the world's leading anti-Semites an acceptable event for an academic institution? Maybe it's just me. I don't work in academia. Because as I see it, and I'm just a simple rabbi, I have trouble enough keeping my own life in control. But in my view, in my humble view, there's a big difference between the free exchange of ideas and a nationally orchestrated barrage of outright false propaganda to incite hatred against Jews. Now, I just want you all to think about this. Can you imagine the outcry? Can you imagine the outcry if University of Pennsylvania, if Harvard, if Brown, I'm a graduate of George Washington University for 2 degrees, Emory for my law degree, Emory University, okay? You imagine if any of those schools, any of them, University of California at Irvine, Carleton, Western, McMaster, where I spoke last night, on campus, by the way, University of Toronto, York, McGill, Loyola. Do you want me to keep on going on? I'll name them all if you want. Can you imagine the outcry if any of those institutions, any of them, hosted a conference to delegitimize, boycott, and ostracize black-owned businesses, gay-owned businesses, or any other country around the world? Geez, we got too many Mexicans coming into Canada. We're going to boycott Mexican businesses. No more tacos for Canada. Can you imagine? Can you imagine the outcry? And you all know. I see you. I see so many of you. I don't have my glasses on. I can see heads shaking up and down. No, I can see it. I can see it. You know it would never happen. Even a tasteless joke that was hurtful to a racial group would be stopped. Yet for some reason, declaring open season on Jews, which is what you do when you declare open season on Israel, is apparently no problem. My mother died this past November. We buried her November 18th. And while she was still of sound mind, I remember my mother saying, I can't believe that I'm witnessing 1938 and 39 all over again. Now, I never really gave my mother much credence, Jewish mothers. First of all, it was the dream. 4 kids. She had a rabbi, 2 lawyers, and a doctor. I mean, that's what she had, okay? Okay? And Jewish mothers, they do what they need to. They live their lives. They do what they need to do, and they torture their kids mercilessly. Okay? I never knew that my mother was so smart, so perspicacious. And then she came out with this statement. And I turned to my daughter and said, your grandmother's very wise. She said, well, what about Mom's mother? I said, she's not so wise. No, not because my mother-in-law thinks that this kind of work that I do is unnecessary, and I'm stirring up a pot and a hornet's nest that doesn't need to be stirred up. Now, if my father could put his life on the line as an 18, 19, and 20-year-old to pick up the medals he did, how can I sit back and do nothing? And I'm going to have to face him one day. And I'm going to make an accounting for those things which I did and did not do. So I'm not going to shrink back like my mother-in-law. Not going to happen. Open season on Jews in Israel. Apparently, no problem. It is a corruption of academia based on pure and unadulterated anti-Semitism, which would not be tolerated against any other ethnic group. And we Jews, you should know, we are a religious group and we are an ethnic group. Oh, boy. Sadly, as you know, UPenn, Harvard are not the only campuses where hate-filled weekends and week-long exercises, anti-Israel conferences have been taking place. You have it right here in London at Western. I spoke in Ottawa last May with Mary Lou, as a matter of fact. You remember the number of kids from Ottawa, University of Ottawa, that besieged me afterwards looking for help. Carleton University. It's all over. It's all over here. It's all over in the United States. University of California, Berkeley, one of the top public institutions in the United States. Israel Apartheid Week. University of Rochester, not too far from here. Closer to Hamilton, I know, but not too far from here. My brother Sam graduated from URock. This year was sponsored at URock, occupation of campus academic buildings in solidarity with Gaza. Brandeis University, you know Brandeis University? What kind of university is Brandeis? No, non-sectarian, it's not Jewish. Jewish antecedents, but it's non-sectarian. However, it is the largest non-sectarian private university, all right, that is Jewishly influenced. Do you know at Brandeis this year, Israeli Occupation Awareness Week took place? At Brandeis. Which is why I told a couple of my synagogue kids who were applying to Brandeis and wanted me to write recommendations for them, nope. Go somewhere else. I'm not writing I said, I'll write recommendations to University of Massachusetts, at Amherst, just about any other school you want to go to, but not Brandeis, not this year, sorry. Or how about this? I want to know if this happened here at Western. During Israel Apartheid Week, were students stopped on campus at fake checkpoints? Anybody know? Hold on, got to get my glasses on. Pesach. Did they? Were they stopped? Yes. Were cars searched? You'll find them on certain campuses. No different than Caledonia. No different whatsoever. How about Israel's ambassador to the United States, Michael Oren, violently interrupted while giving a speech at University of California, Irvine, really one of the ground zeros of this in the U.S. Or when pro-Israel students and speakers try to say something. Political agendas masking as instruction in the classroom. So, what kind of atmosphere has been created for Jewish students on these campuses? What atmosphere has been created for pro-Israel students on these campuses? I could go on. It's been a long night. It's been a long day. You're tired. So I want to leave you with a charge. Speakers come to my synagogue. I tell all the speakers, you can't just leave people hanging. Give them something to do. Tell them something to get their creative juices flowing, so action will result. Ask this of Mark Stein and Wafa and Bat Yaor and Frank Gaffney and Dr. Charles Jacobs, Dr. Mark Dury, Dr. Andrew Boston, Andrew McCarthy, anyone who comes. And I bring in the people who aren't brought in anywhere else. And why do I say this, my friends? Because there are a precious few of us who are doing this. The risk needs to be spread. The risk needs to be spread. It can't all rely upon some loudmouth rabbi from Boston, an author who now resides in the United States, but from your country, Canada, or two guys who show up in Caledonia carrying this symbol of freedom. So here's the charge. It's time to take the campuses back. To take them back from the anti-Semites and the Israel bashers. University of Pennsylvania, you know how much Jewish money's at UPenn or Harvard? Yes, so much it doesn't even pay to tell you how much. Well, time to divert that Jewish money to other worthy causes. If you're a lover of Israel, I can give you tons of institutions in Israel to which you can donate if you don't like what's happening at Western. Or you know something? Dr. Mansour is doing good work. Support his chair. Doctor, would that be reasonable? They can support your work. Yeah, but you're particular at Western. You're one of the good guys. If a university allows an anti-Israel boycott event, make a big stink. Maybe boycott your funds. Maybe ask for contributions to different organizations. Maybe approach the administration and say, listen, guys, if you're going to use this mealy-mouthed nonsense about the free exchange of ideas, you can't shut down an Israel Truth Week when you're sponsoring an Israel Apartheid Week. It doesn't work that way. It's either open to everyone or it's open to no one. And there are students who need your support. There are student groups that need your support. Find them. Network with them. Give them solace, give them comfort, and give them strength. And believe me, it's not just the Jewish students, but student chapters of Christians for Israel or Christians United for Israel need that support as well, because they're under attack too. And by all means, call the presidents of these institutions, because we all know the consequences of silence in the face of hatred is too great a price to bear. I thank you so much for the opportunity this evening.